Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Finding Yourself podcast, the mini podcast series centered around movies and TV. I'm your host, Kyle Duffy, and in today's episode, I wanted to talk about the new Ryan Reynolds film, Free Guy. Free Guy tells the story of a bank teller, Guy, who finds out he's a background character in a video game and that his life is nothing but a predestined group of ones and zeros. After finding this out, he decides to take his life back, play his own game, and become the only hero in a game full of villains. As a new release, Free Guy has a lot going for it. For one, it has a star-studded cast in Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer from Killing Eve, Joe Carey from Stranger Things, and Taika Waititi from Jojo Rabbit. This movie also has an experienced director behind it in Sean Levy, who has directed a number of standalone films, some of which include Arrival with Amy Adams, as well as Love and Monsters with Dylan O'Brien. He's also directed franchise films, including Night at the Museum with Ben Stiller, as well as Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin. I really enjoyed Taika Waititi's performance in this film. He plays the main villain and antagonist versus Ryan Reynolds. I found his character to be perfect because he had realistic attributes to him. And what I mean by that is his character as a villain wasn't over the top or cartoonish, which I feel some films fall into that trap of making their villain very over the top, cartoonish, with having long monologues and evil speeches. Whereas Taika Waititi's character, you knew what his motives were, and they were realistic motives. You know exactly who his character is once he steps on screen. And the movie gives you no doubt in your mind as to the reasons behind his actions. He is the modern day villain in the sense that he is a capitalist who doesn't care who he steps on to get to the top, doesn't care who he rips off. He's only concerned about money and making more of it. He doesn't care how. And in this film, he doesn't care that his game is loved by millions. All he cares about is selling his game and making sure that it's making money. And that's what modern day villains have become in most movies. It's kind of boring sometimes, but at least you know where you stand with them. You know what their motives are. And even though Taika Waititi's character had very basic motives in this movie, it didn't stop him from stealing the show and the scenes he was in. Because I think he has that charisma, very similar to Ryan Reynolds. He has this charisma and charm about him when he's on screen, that even when he's a villain, you don't fully hate him. There wasn't one scene in this movie where I thought, oh, he's a real dick. I liked him in every scene he was in because he had that charm about him. I thought Ryan Reynolds put in a very good performance in this movie. Similar to his other movies, he comes across as extremely likable and charming. It was also nice to see him not cast as the main love interest. He has other things to do in this movie, and it gives him that much more depth that he has loads of responsibilities in this movie as the main character, and he's not just playing this heartthrob that some girl is swooning over. I'd also like to mention Rel Howery's performance in this movie from Get Out. He has a lot of on-screen time with Ryan Reynolds, and they play best friends in the movie. He has a good chemistry with Ryan Reynolds. They seem to bounce off each other very well, and he came across as extremely likeable in the movie as well. Jodie Comer and Joe Carey had very good performances in the movie as well, although a lot of their scenes had a lot of exposition in it. They were kind of exposition devices, so when they were in a scene they were kind of explaining what was going on, and they kind of play game developers in the movie, and a lot of their scenes have technical jargon in it, so I feel like a lot of their scenes might have been isolating audience members who weren't gamers, but overall their performances were very good and they seemed to strike a chemistry on screen that came across well. As well as a talented cast, this movie has great cinematography, colourful imagery, great music, and entertaining action that'll keep you entertained throughout its runtime. Because the plot focuses on video games, the movie does lean into the video gaming world, with cameos from YouTubers, streamers, and video gamers, including a cameo from Jacksepticeye, an Irish YouTuber and streamer. If you're unaware of Jacksepticeye, he's an Irish YouTuber and streamer. He does very well on YouTube. He's one of the more popular creators, so give him a look on YouTube. It was great to see him in this movie. I was surprised when I saw him, but when I did see him, I thought, you know what, fair play. Because he does come across as a very nice guy in all his videos, and he seems fairly sound. And seems to be doing very well for himself, obviously. He has a good head on his shoulders. So I'm glad to see Irish content creators succeeding like this. I thought Free Guy as a movie did a very good job at balancing the story to make sure that not one group of audience members were isolated. because there was a chance of that happening. With the movie leaning into the gaming aspect, there was a chance of isolating audience members who weren't gamers with a lot of technical jargon. However, the movie avoids using too much technical jargon so that audience members can still get into the movie and feel connected to it. For instance, I went to go see this movie with my girlfriend, who's recently only getting into gaming, is relatively new to it, and even she was able to understand the plot, follow it easily, and really enjoyed it. So if you want to go see this movie but you're afraid that you won't know what's going on because of the gaming aspect, I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's very universally understandable. The gaming aspect is a part of it, but it's explained very well, and it's not too technical that it isolates you. There isn't a whole lot of downsides to this movie in my opinion. The only thing I can really think of is the second half of the movie. The pacing is kind of off. It kind of slows down and gets halted a bit, and in those moments you don't really know where they're going to go with it. But once they decide where they're going with the second half of the movie, it does become predictable enough. And when I say predictable, like, the most predictable part of this movie is the ending. But to be honest, the movie as a whole was so good that I could probably forgive the last bit of the movie becoming predictable, because even though it was predictable, I was still entertained. It's just I could tell where it was going to end up. So that was the worst aspect of the movie for me. However, it didn't bother me that much. So if you are looking for a movie with loads of twists and turns and surprise plot twists and a surprise ending, Free Guy is not going to do that for you. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would definitely recommend going to see Free Guy in the cinema. It has everything you need for a successful movie. Great action, a great cast, a very interesting plot, and it's beautifully shot as well with colourful tones and great music. I'd like to know your opinions down in the comments, so let me know if you've seen the movie and what you thought of it. And on a personal note, it was great to be back in the cinema again. I forgot how much I missed going to the cinema to see movies. You get used to being at home for so long with COVID and everything is streaming online now, but it's just the atmosphere of being in the cinema is so different, and it feels like you're really experiencing the movie, if that makes sense. So it's great to be back in the cinema. I plan on going a lot more often now. So if anyone has any suggestions of movies, upcoming movies to see, I would really appreciate it. I want to go see that new horror movie, Candyman. I know it's a remake. I haven't seen the original film. I don't know if they've cast the same guy, because the guy who played Candyman, I think it was in the 80s or 70s, he's kind of iconic for that role. So I wonder if they've recast him again, or if they've gone with someone different. Let me know if you know. So that's one movie I want to go see. But if you have any other suggestions of new movies and new releases, I'd really appreciate it. Free Guy's performance online has done pretty well so far. It has an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you enjoy reviews and discussions on movies, TV shows and documentaries, please subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Wednesday and Friday. And if you want to listen to me anywhere else, I also post my podcast up on Spotify and Anchor FM. Before I end this episode, I do want to give a quick thank you to anyone who does listen to my videos and my podcast. I didn't know how I'd fare out with this podcast and if I would enjoy it or not, but I am enjoying the experience so far. I really like learning everything new about it and learning what I need to progress myself and enhance my skills. I originally started this podcast because I wanted to learn the skills I need for a career in radio and podcasting, because that's my passion. I do want to keep on taking steps to improve the quality of my podcast, and that will eventually mean investing in equipment to improve the quality, such as better mics, a camera for a video podcast as well. So those are all things that I'm planning on doing with this. However, at the moment, I'm just focusing on getting my content right and talking about something that I'm passionate about, and hopefully you're passionate about too. So again, thank you for anyone who listens. This has been the Finding Yourself podcast with Carl Duffy. Thanks for listening.